Alright guys, you might notice a few differences behind me. We've got a new livery on the 350Z, wherever it is, there it is. And we've also got a new car, which is a 370Z. I will show you around that properly in a minute and talk through the plans for that, because it's not going to be staying anywhere near stock, obviously, but some quite interesting plans for that, engine swaps and stuff. We'll go through that in a minute. Let's start though with the 350 livery. This was applied by Drift Nuts. I took a little video when I went to pick it up, so I'll show you that now and kind of just keep talking over the top of it, because a bit more picturesque than just my dirty, messy unit here. So yeah, the brief that I gave them was to just leave a bit of the original bodywork showing, because obviously I've had it custom painted. Didn't want to just cover the entire thing up with a wrap. But yeah, they've done a good job. Really happy with the design. They designed it and applied it and everything. And yeah, it's turned out pretty good. A lot of good reactions to it on Facebook and Instagram and stuff when I posted it, so everyone else seems to be liking it as much as I am, which is always nice. And I will explain the random blob of paint on one corner of the bumper that's like a completely different colour to everything else. We'll get to that in a sec. But first of all, I just want to explain the sponsors. So we've got Torken, obviously the sort of main sponsor, I guess you would say. And that's where I buy a lot of my parts from for the 350 and 370, especially the 370. They've already helped out a lot with 370 parts. And yeah, they've always been really good customer service for me, like even long before any of this sort of sponsorship stuff was talked about or anything like that. They're like replying to messages at midnight and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? They always seem to go the extra mile for customer service. So happy to represent them and kind of have them on board as a sponsor. And like I say, they're helping out already a ton with the 370 build, so looking forward to see what we can do with that. And then we've also got Abbey Motorsport, who did the tuning on the 350 and the engine build, and Funk Motorsport, which is where I bought most of the heat shield stuff from, so all the heat sleeving and stuff for lines that are running right near the turbos, the heat barrier stuff that we lined the bottom of the firewall with to stop all the heat from the exhaust and the turbos getting through to the cabin so much. All that stuff all came from them. Again, they've been great to deal with, and happy to represent them. And then we've got a few other sponsors. Turbo Dynamics supplied the wastegates and the blow-off valve. I feel like I've forgotten somebody. Oh yeah, Alloy Racing Fabrication. They made the fuel tank. So yeah, all that stuff, and the swirl pot. So yeah, this is probably a good time as well to explain this random blob of colour here, why it's a completely different colour to everything else. Basically, this door used to have loads of dents and smashes and stuff all down it. And before we put the livery on, I got that repaired. But we were very tight for time, so I said, don't bother painting it. Just repair it, put some primer on it or whatever, and then the livery is going to cover the whole door anyway, so it doesn't matter. Which is fine for the door, but what I wasn't planning was this, on the very last drift event before it went to all get fixed, got smashed quite a bit here. I don't even know how, I didn't hit anything, but this kind of whole thing separated from the top part of it. So I said, while they were fixing the door, let's just do that as well. What I wasn't banking on was this much area that they were going to have to like work on. I thought it was just literally going to be a little bit here, and then they just stick some primer over it or whatever, and I just cover it up with a sticker or something like that until I got it painted. But as you can see, they've had to work with quite a lot of the bumper and covered it all in primer, so it's ended up with like a random splodge. But I don't know if I'm going to bother getting it painted, because there's loads of marks and stuff all over this bumper anyway. It's seen better days, so I might just wait until I get a new bumper and just get that painted. Like all the spats down here and stuff have been battered. The rear bumper is kind of the worst part of the car, so I think it makes sense to just replace the whole rear bumper rather than making this one look a little bit nicer again. So for now, unfortunately, we're going to have to just deal with a random bit of paint, but whatever. Other than that, it all looks good. Again, this bit around here is fucked, so it makes sense to just replace the rear bumper. But yeah, it's all looking good. Like, they've done a good job of wrapping it up onto the door sills and everything like that. We've got some on the door handles. That must have been a pain in the ass to do. But yeah, you've seen it all in the walk around, so I won't bother showing you it all again. This is going to change actually, the bonnet, because we've got, if I come over to one of the messy parts of this place, we've got a bonnet vent that's going to be going on there, which is going to be basically to aid with the airflow from the radiator. It'll help as well with just like letting hot air out of the bonnet. That's obviously one function of the bonnet vent. But because the radiator is about here, and the bonnet vents are going to start about here, it gives like a good flow for the air coming through the radiator to actually escape, rather than just kind of getting stuck in the engine bay or hitting the engine block or whatever. Obviously it'll escape eventually on its own anyway, but if we give it a nicer path to escape from, then in theory, it gets slightly better cooling. We'll see whether that is the case or not, but yeah, that is one thing we're going to do. Anyway, you're probably more interested in this, aren't you? This is probably why you clicked the video. So this thing is a 2009 370Z, completely stock, complete with the pretty naff stock interior. Although they do at least give you an oil temperature gauge, which I like. They also give you this lovely LED cheesy Z thing. But yeah, it's 2009, completely stock, like I say. We'll pop the hood, and you can see just how stock it is. Actually, to be fair, the previous owner did do one modification to it. They put this K&N air filter kit thing on, but then replaced the K&N air filters with some unbranded ones, which I don't quite understand. So first thing I'm going to do is just stick the K&N ones back on there. But other than that, it's pretty similar to the 350 engine, other than the fact that you've got dual throttle bodies. And some of the coolant stuff is a bit different, like none of this is here on the 350. It looks like a better coolant setup though. This is kind of basically what I tried to make on the 350, I guess. But yeah, the plan was originally to either supercharge this or stick an LS engine in it. Now, gone off both of those options, I'll be honest. So the plan at the moment is to keep it NA for now, for summer, use it as a practice car. I have not really explained, have I, why I've even bought this car. Okay. Let's take a few minutes to explain stuff. Right, so yeah, I think I got a bit carried away there, just talking about like what I'm going to do to it. Didn't really explain the whole reason for buying it or anything. Right, the 350 is obviously twin turbo now. If you're new to the channel, there's loads of videos of me making the twin turbo setup on this. But basically, that's twin turbo. We don't know how reliable it is yet, but suffice to say, it's probably been strained quite a bit because it's twin turbo. It's running 600 horsepower. On a tiny radiator at the moment. That's going to get sorted soon, get a bigger radiator. But even then, there's probably going to be some reliability issues with it, you know, if I keep thrashing it at every single practice day. And that's the thing, at the moment, I'm having to drive that. I know, first world problems, I have to drive my 600 brake drift car at every event that I go to, which is not ideal. Again, I know it's a first world problem, but luckily I can afford to fix that and get another car. So I was like, well, I should get just a cheap old crap car just to kind of thrash about. But me being me, I somehow ended up getting a 370Z, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But now that I've got it, it's kind of like, well, I want to make it nice, do you know what I mean? And the original plan was to either supercharge it or LS it, like I said, and just do like a really nice job of it. Take the things that I've learned from the 350 and just make everything really nice, really clean, do a good job of it, make it easy to work on, which is pretty unlikely with the small engine bay, or relatively small. But yeah, just do the best I could with it. What's ended up happening though is I thought, well, let's supercharge it. That ends up costing a fortune for not that much extra power. And if you want to go much higher power, like if you want to go above sort of 450 brake, you've got to build the engine. And in that case, that's another like several £1,000s. Obviously, again, we've already been through that with the 350, built that engine. Don't want to just build another VQ engine because I know they can't take mad high power. Like Chris Forsberg in Following the Drift tried to do that and basically gave up and just moved to a different engine eventually. So to me, there's no point ploughing like over 10 grand into that engine and a supercharger just for it to not ever do anything crazy anyway. If I was only looking for 450, 500 brake, fine. But if I'm going to spend 7 grand on a supercharger kit, which is what they are, I'd kind of want more than that out of it. And again, that was why I ended up twin turbo in the 350, was because the supercharger kits were so expensive. So like I keep saying, the plan was supercharge it or LS it. Once the supercharger plan had gone out the window, I was like, right, well, I'll do an engine swap, because I've never done an engine swap. Obviously learned a lot doing the twin turbo on the 350, but that was on the standard engine. So I wanted to try to do an engine swap as like the next big project. Problem with an LS swap is it's pretty boring, isn't it? Like it would work, it would be relatively easy for my first engine swap. You can literally get a kit that just drops an LS straight into a 370. You don't really have to do anything, I don't think. Obviously there will be work involved, but you get all the engine mounts and everything like that, like with the kit, and you don't have to do a lot. So that's pretty tempting because a lot of people know a lot about LS engines. You can get decent power out of them. They'd be pretty reliable. They're pretty easy to work on. All these reasons make a lot of sense to just LS swap it. But like I say, it's pretty boring. I would go through all that time and money and effort, and everyone would just be like, meh, it's just an LS. Like, everyone does that. Do you know what I mean? Like, in this country, they're not actually that common, LS swaps, but everyone on the internet thinks they are and hates on them. And whilst that's not the main reason that I'm not going to do something, like I'm not going to go, well, the internet says it's bad, so I can't do it. I don't give a shit that much about what people on the internet say, but it's kind of just an added thing where I was already thinking it's a bit boring just to LS swap it, and then kind of everyone else's opinions saying like it's very boring. I'm like, maybe we'll do something different. So started looking at different engine swap ideas, posted a thing on Facebook, instantly regretted it because I got about 300 crazy suggestions of what engines to put in it. But one of them, or a few of them, were good suggestions. And one of them being, and this is kind of the leader so far of what I'm thinking, is a BMW inline 6, the N54 probably. But there's still a lot of stuff to work out with that. Speaking to Mark at Abbey Motorsport, he reckons he can map it and tune it and everything fine with a very expensive ECU. I don't think the Link ECU will do something to do with the injectors that we need. So there's lots of stuff to look into still with that. BMW engines, like modern BMW engines, are pretty complicated, a lot of electronic stuff going on. So there's a lot of stuff to figure out still. But that would be the kind of goal at the moment is to do a N54 swap. That's kind of the plan. And whether that ends up happening or not, I don't know. But what I'm going to do to start with is build it, not build the engine, but like build the car with just the NA VQ engine in it, thrash it all summer, have it as a practice car, like what I intended, you know, like to just have a car that's reliable and that I can beat on. Not beat on as in crash it into walls and shit, but just not worry too much about reliability and just thrash it and have some fun. So I don't have to keep abusing the 350 all the time. And also, some events that I go to, most people turn up in MX-5s or whatever. I don't want to turn up in a 600 brake BDC comp car. Like, it just doesn't fit in. It's not much fun either because your car's way faster and way grippier than other people's. So like, it's not good for chasing. It's not good for other people to follow or whatever. It gets through tires like mad. There's a lot of reasons why you don't really want to be taking a 600 brake comp car to every single drift practice day. So this will kind of fit the bill nicely. They're like 300 brake-ish standard. Mark at Abbey Motorsport's probably going to remap it on a Ecutech remap, and we'll get a bit more out of it, but not loads. So that's the plan. Run it over summer, NA, thrash it, and then over winter it can be a big project to do the N54 swap or whatever we end up doing. I'm sure the comments on this video will be filled with some more crazy suggestions of engines to use, but I have been through a lot and looked at a lot, and the N54 kind of meets most of my criteria because, one, it's a bit more interesting than some of the other options. Two, they can take like 600 brake on stock internals, apparently. Three, it's an inline six, like it's kind of like the modern sort of 2J, I guess. Like, I'm not a fan of putting a 2J in everything. To me, that's just as boring as LS swapping everything. I feel like everyone just puts a 2J or a 1J in every drift car these days. It's either a 1J, 2J, or a LS. They're the most common ones. So everyone hating on LS because it's common. I feel like you can't say, oh, but put a 2J in it instead, because that's just as common. So yeah, for me, I'd rather do BMW N54. That's the plan. And I've waffled on for ages now. There you go, that's the plan. There's going to be loads of videos of just doing the normal stuff, you know, coilovers, diff, stripping it out, roll cage, all that stuff will be coming up pretty soon, exhaust, all that sort of stuff. But I thought I'd just kind of explain the long-term plans. That like the over-winter project will be engine swap, and then maybe that will replace my competition car. Maybe that will become the new competition car. I don't know. We'll see. And then I'm going to end up in the same position where I've got two competition cars that I don't want to thrash at every event. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Let's just make some stupid decisions first. I've forgotten to mention that BDC is this weekend, and obviously we're doing it in the 350. And I'm hoping to actually do kind of well this time because it's a track that I've done a few times before and I've got a bit more used to the car now. We've ironed out a few overheating issues. So hopefully we can actually give it a good go this time. But there'll be a full video from that, of course. Like I said, that'll probably be the next one. So I'll see you there.